Hi, this is video number 2 in a series of 5 in which we are chatting about the 5 values of Scrum. In the last video, we talked about courage, and without courage, it is kind of hard to talk about today's value, which is focus. My name is Petula, and this is All Things Agile. Focus. The dictionary reads a center of activity, attraction, or attention. It also gives us emphasis, a point of concentration. Focus is just that thing that if you don't have it, you scramble. If you do have it, you get stuff done. I find that Scrum is particularly primed for focus. You have 5 well-defined events. You have 3 specific accountabilities for the team. I do think that in Scrum, everything has a clear purpose. And purpose, as you're going to see, is the key for focus. A key test for teams operating in focus to me is, are they achieving a state of flow? And you can translate that by something that you might have heard, which is called the sustainable pace. And it's very simple to understand. Sustainable pace means, can I keep this intensity and quality of work for weeks to no end? If the answer is yes, we are in focus, we have achieved a sustainable pace. Now, in order to get there, there is a very controversial aspect that needs to be addressed, which is focus is doing one thing at a time. Focus is finishing older work before starting new work. I know a lot of people might say things such as, this activity number 1 is really stuck, so we're going to jump into activity number 2. And I'm not saying that there are not exceptions, but this cannot be a way of thinking because context switching is really expensive. Activity 1 that I just let go for a while still needs to be revisited, and I need to stop whatever I'm doing at some point once it finally gets unblocked, or I need to come back to it at any other given time. So there is the expense, the cost of switching between activities, but there is also the cost of having to backpedal and fix the mistakes, because all this context switching, I will drop things, I will forget things. It is not for free, and if you start measuring it, I guarantee you're going to see the difference once you do one thing at a time or when you just juggle between multiple things. So I really think that this is an uncompromising element of focus. It really is working sequentially. It's very effective to work sequentially. Now, if we move to another aspect of focus, very specific in Scrum, it is the one source of truth for work, and one person that is really focused on that one source of truth. So the product owner is not the sole person who thinks and suggests and organizes and pitches things to put in the product backlog, but he or she is the accountable person for the product backlog. It is his or her focus. And the product backlog becomes a focal point for the team, for the clients, for the stakeholders, everybody that wants to know what is going on or what is going to happen with the product goes in this one centralized place. So that's really, really efficient. Moving on to the rest of the team, how the team works and how we perceive focus as well. There are 2 things I would like to mention. One is going back to the dictionary definition, in which was said, well, focus requires a target, a point of concentration. We already talked about the product backlog, but just to make sure, the focus for the team is the value. The product backlog will be expressing value, and value is related to the customer, or should I say customers, and all the stakeholders, because there's not just one customer in the end of the line, right? Suppose you're doing a product that is heavily regulated. Your end user might not know that, but you still have to abide to the laws and regulations. And those are, those auditors and those other people are also your client in the making. So you have a palette of customers that you have to keep happy, and you have to keep the quality. And sometimes the quality is also behind things that the end user will not see, but you as a product developer knows best. So I always like to mention this. Are we focused on that thing called value, which is an amalgamate of everything that the customer and the quality and the regulations and and the technology will need? Or are we just focusing on getting stuff down the pipeline? And that's the definition of working on outcomes versus output. Output is just put stuff out there, and outcome is put valuable stuff out there. And then there is one final element of focus for a team that I would like to mention, and it is the team focus together, the team working in unison. That is a very important notion for focus, because it's easy to think about individuals focusing on their whatever they're doing alone. But that's not what we mean for a Scrum team. We really want the team to work in a way that they're entirely free to self-manage. They decide how to do the work. They define the limits of their collaborations, right? So we're not pairing all the time. We're not really sitting together and ideating together and doing things together all the time. It's up to the team to decide how they work, but they work together. They agree together, and they foresee that the end result of the sprint is something that they will collectively achieve, and they're fundamentally all responsible for it. So people working together, complementing each other, helping each other is a very important element of focus, because I'm not interested in my individual task. I'm interested in our collective goal in the end of the sprint. We already saw with courage that in a quantitative way, we can gauge things. So we could do similarly with focus. We don't need precision, we need accuracy. So we could gauge focus as well. But if you're interested in going on the qualitative avenue, here are some questions that I think you could use to start probing for focus in your team. Does the team reject work that comes from outside of the product backlog or outside of the team? It is important to have this one single avenue for communicating work. Are the daily scrums short and sweet? Daily scrums are like a pulse check, a heartbeat meetup, in which we can know if we're still on track with the sprint goal, and in which we can actually reassess and guarantee that we will achieve the sprint goal. Is the burn down chart smooth? When we look at the curve and it's healthy, we know that our work is small enough, and because of that, the work is in control. Does the product have a clear goal? Does the sprint has a clear goal? If this is true, every single team member should be able to know what these goals are and be able to abide to them. Does the team have flow practices in place? The very first one we can think about is, are we limiting the amount of work in progress? Last week we talked about courage. Now we're starting to see that having the courage to say no, a Scrum team can enable focus. Another thing very important for focus is being respectful of people's individual limitation. Respect is actually another value of Scrum. You're starting to see how the values are actually a little bit intertwined in how they help the teams to operate in Scrum. But that will be it for today. We'll stop here and we'll talk about the other values in other videos. I will catch you in the next one. Bye.